a bit about relationship in Nairobi. Is it really tough in Nairobi?
Very tough. Very tough. I really don't know why, but it's very tough. Unaona ile yenye nilisema nimepata huyu, he's not going to cheat.
He's the one.
So
mtoto mwingine, ngoja wait a bit How did he introduce you to the second kid? Jo, ulikuwa unajua mmoja?
Huyu wa pili nilikuwa nishaambiwa. A friend of mine told me, by the way, you know, this and this person akona watoto wawili, and I was like, no, mimi najua akona mtoto mmoja. So when I went to him and I was like, by the way, nimesikia uko na watoto wawili, ama it's just rumors zako. When I grew up, I had a learning disorder called dyslexia. If at some point nikisoma haraka, nitasoma who kama how, and how kama who.
A very warm welcome unto you. I'm so excited to bring you yet another episode of my story. Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you are not left out of any content that we post. You are always notified. So today I have a very unique story, and with me here is a special guest who is ready to share with us her particular story, her special story. You know, everyone has a story to tell, and of course today is her day. So welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, uko aje?
Hi, niko poa, wewe uko aje?
Mimi niko poa. Baridi nakupelekaje?
Nikuvumilia tu, ni weather for two, lakini nikuvaa sweater.
Weather for two.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Maybe you can introduce yourself kidogo as you go on.
Naitwa Jedida Wafula, and I'm from Bungoma County, a small village known as Webuye, and that is where I grew up, and I learned in Bungoma County, my primary and high school. Sasa campus ndio when I came to Nairobi.
Okay, na wewe ni Mluya?
Mimi ni Mluya kabisa.
Yes, Otongareni is your neighbor?
No, niko mbali sana na yeye kidogo. Tuko mbali kidogo. I'm in Webuye and he's in Tongareni, so hatuwezi patana hata kidogo.
All right. Of course, hapa hivi we normally share people's story. We invite people to share their story. And today is your day. Nataka kusikiza tu story yako. Maybe before we go on to deeply kidogo, tell us a bit about your background life. Life yako imekuaje, maisha yako growing up pale Bungoma?
Growing up imekuwa so fun because when we were young, unajua tulikuwa ushago. And you know ushago, you have that environment where you play with other kids, you interact. So me growing up at some point ilikuwa poa until wazazi wangu wakaamua they take me to boarding school when I was in class 6. So hapo nili experience some challenges kidogo because I think I still needed my parents attention at that period of time. Yeah, nilikuwa nimezoea nyumbani. But before tupelekwe boarding, there is a time yenye nikiwa class 1. Now I separated from my parents, so nikaenda nikaishi na with my uncle. So nikaishi huko for a period of like 3 years. Nikirudi home nilikuwa class 4. So now you see I've not gotten a lot of attention from my parents and everything. So nika class 4, class 5, class 6 ndio nikarushwa boarding. So nimesoma boarding all throughout nikamaliza form 4. Yeah.
Wewe ni sign language interpreter. Did you always wanted to be a sign language interpreter, ama ni kitu develop after grow?
Generally niko tu na hiyo passion ya disability because growing up I have 2 nephew and a niece who have albinism. So nimegrow na hiyo passion ya persons with disability. So when I grew up I wanted to be a nurse.
You wanted to be a nurse?
Yes, because nilitaka kujua mbona wako na white skin and I have a black skin. So nilitaka kujua sana, but unfortunately my bio na chemistry zilicheza kiwao. So I didn't qualify to go to a nursing school or a KMTC school. So nika Google, nikaona a friend of mine shared some clips of deaf people signing and everything. So nikajiambia niende nisome sign language. But at that period of time hakuwa na diploma sign language, so I did a special needs diploma. So after nimemaliza special needs diploma, ndio sasa nimesha get the basics of sign language, I went to now Kise to do sign language. But mimi nilitaka kabisa kwa mwalimu wa intellectual disability. But since the field is so young, not that young, but I'm not that much exposed, so at some point ingeni limit. So my parents were like, first start with sign language, get exposed, then after being exposed now you can know what you really want. Hata ukirudi kufunza watoto wa intellectual disability, at least you have background and everything of what you are going to deal with.
All right.
Yeah.
And you told us that you always had passion in disability. You know everything to do with disability. Ilikuja aje?
Disability, when I grew up, sinilikwambia, I was curious to know,
yeah.
why my nephew akona white skin and I have a black skin.
Yeah.
So when I went to learn now special needs education, that was in KU,
Yeah.
nika get in the bigger world of persons with disability.
Yeah.
Nika get the blind, the deaf. So I started interacting with them.
Yeah.
So mimi ningetoka class, wenzangu wanaenda KM kukula,
Yeah.
mimi ndio huyo Lukenya kwenda kukutana the visual impaired.
Yeah.
So tupige story nini, so now it's that passion ikaendelea kugrow hapo. So that's when your passion may grow up to now. I still have that urge of advocating for persons with disability. Yeah.
And specifically now, speaking of sign language, you know, you deal with the deaf, right? Interpreting for them and everything. So passion yako pia interpretation ilikuja after KU hapa?
Yeah, passion yangu ilikuja after KU, after so interact na the deaf. But at some point, when I grew up,
Yeah.
I had a learning disorder called dyslexia.
Yeah.
So me growing up, it was so hard because nimekwambia we didn't have that connection with parents juu tulitumwa huku kwa anko tukakuja tukatumwa boarding school. So uwezi explainia mzazi juu you are not that close.
Yeah.
So mimi ningeenda shule nikipewa storybook nisome,
Yeah.
it becomes hard. So unapata watu wanacheka, so unapata no teacher, no as in hakuna mwalimu mwenye ange understand this and this is a learning disorder. So nikaenda high school, the same thing happened. So hiyo time tulikuwa tuna read set books zenye walikuwa na choose at this row, read from here. I never read. Me, I used to tell my friend to read because I knew very well the class is going to laugh. And I didn't know, so mimi nilikuwa najiambianga mimi ni mjinga, lakini because nakujanga hapo katikati kwa class,
Yeah.
that means mimi si mjinga sana. But now
yeah.
kitu ilikuwa naniangusha sana kwanza kwa biology ni spellings. Because I have the word, I know the word, but sometimes siwezi tuandika hiyo spelling vizuri. So it became an issue, but I really didn't know that it was a learning disorder. So nikikuja kufanya special needs, tukisoma learning disorder, so I was like, aha. So I had dyslexia all along,
Yeah.
and no teacher of mine alinotice I had this condition nikiwa mdogo, because sasa sahi at least wangejua mapema ninge correct. Like right now I really appreciate the CBC kuleta the sounds.
Yeah.
Because the sounds inasaidia wase wako na dyslexia ku pronounce the words. Like for example, if I give you how and who,
Yeah.
if at some point nikisoma haraka,
Yeah.
nitasoma who kama how, and how kama who.
And that's a disorder.
And that's a disorder of which wange notice nikiwa mdogo,
Yeah.
they could have done something when I was still young. So it became hard at some point because ukisimama kusoma mbele ya watu kila mtu anauliza mbona ko age yake na hajui kusoma.
Yeah.
But the problem is they don't know, just need a little time to rehearse every word. Ujue hii na hii na hii na hii. After ume go through the whole document, then you can stand before them and read because you already have because unaweza fika hapo,
Yeah.
unapata word kama there are words zenye utapata zenye zinakaribiana but they are not just the same.
Yeah.
Procure, proceed. So unaona nikipata procure at some point mimi nitasema proceed. So it became hard to an extent that when now I joined campus, ndio nikaget so this is the disorder that I had. So I had to start correcting it at my age of 20s, early 20s. So that's when I got someone mwenye I think pia akona basis the speech therapy, and akaniambia if you want to really improve on it, you have to, every time you read, you don't read it in your mind, you read it outwards, so that when you stand before people, you already have it in your mind. So that really helped a lot. But pia nikiangalia, it's not something that just developed, it's hereditary. Because nikiona hata sometimes my father unaona anakaa chini anakuambia spell for me this word. Sa nikaanza so connect dots, nikaona pia my sisters have the same thing. So nikaona hapo it wasn't something of me alone, but it was a family issue.
So umesema dyslexia? Pia mimi niko na learning disorder.
Dyslexia.
Yeah. This is a learning disorder, right?
Yeah, a learning disorder, but it doesn't affect intelligence. And mostly people who have dyslexia, they are good when it comes to art, creative. They are very much, their mind is so much in creativity. They can really create something which it will just be amazing. So kwa familia yetu mimi nikiona kila mtu ni artist.
Yeah.
Hakuna mtu mwenye si, everyone is an artist. If you give somebody something, ata create something out of that. If you give a picture, we will communicate. The only problem is people need to give these people with dyslexia time to read out, then they can read. Bure kucheka, it really discourage us, and also it makes us feel that we are just nobodies in the society. Yeah.
And I think also the disorder could be associated with not knowing, lack of knowledge. Like for me, I didn't really know much about dyslexia until when I met you now. And maybe what are the symptoms?
There are no symptoms really zenye unaweza notice haraka, but you can easily tell ukipea mtoto kitabu asome, alafu utaona tu hizo words anazisoma, ama sometimes ukipea mtoto aandike, unaona badala ya kuandika P anaandika B, ama P but si P, it looks on is it on the right? On the right, yes. Hata nimefanya right on the right. Unaona anaipeleka on the left. So it's easily noticeable either kama anasoma ama anaandika. So that's when you know huyu utaona tu tule two signs, then you can take them to a specialist akwambie kama ni disorder ama ni ana develop mind ina develop. Yeah.
So is it also about mind disorder because you read something in your mind instead of what you see?
I can't say it's mind disorder because I've told you it's not related to intelligence. Huwezi sema mtu ako na dyslexia anakuanga wa mwisho class, no. We are so bright, na nimekwambia we are so creative. So that means we are okay. The problem is ni hizo two sounds. Zime affect sound na pronunciation. So unapata nimekwambia who and how we can easily procure, process, zina to confuse. But if given time, someone can easily calm down, read, go through it. Kama kuna yenye namsumbua, I search and everything. So it's just giving time, alafu pia more practice on voicing and voicing out different words. So with time unakujanga kuwa sawa. Yeah, but it's not a disability or something, it's just a disorder. Yeah.
And is the disorder permanent or is something that you can perfect on? Are you doing well right now, or do you still experience the same problem in some words?
Right now I can say I'm at, is it 90? Yeah, at 90. It's something they can perfect on, but not 100%. You are not there 100%, but it takes time. But you can easily perfect on it. Yeah.
And it's hereditary, right?
Yeah, it's hereditary. You get it from your family. From your father, maybe in your family, one person had dyslexia. So you get it's hereditary. It's not something that just develops. So sijui huyo wa kwanza mwenye alipata wapi, I can't really know, but it's hereditary. Yeah.
And maybe now pointing out still on matters dyslexia, what are some of the challenges that you have experienced, apart from pronunciation? Maybe kuna point umefika, maybe kuna kitu umelose because of your disorder.
I don't think kama kuna kitu nimelose friends. Unaona kuna hii game yenye ulikuwa unacheza kwa simu ya words. So there is a time nimekaa na rafiki yangu kwa group. And I was like, hii jina ni super. And it's supper. So and I was like, super. So like this friend of mine alicheka, akaanzia kuambia wase, bwana huyu mdema ana pronounce hapa kama super. So I was very much afraid na nikakuwa ashamed. So I walked out of that room, and that's how I lost those friends. Wote venye walikuwa hapo sita, those how I lost them. But I really don't blame them because they didn't know. So it was my responsibility for me to inform them. But because at DCC hatuko tumefika hizo units, so I knew ni mimi niko na shida. So the only thing that has affected me is losing friends before coming to realize this disorder is what I have. So after nimeijua, I'm very much open right now. When even I read something, I tell somebody, disclaimer. Ukisikia nimesoma jina vibaya, hold, nikimaliza niambie, because I know at the end kuna 2 or 3 words nitakuwa nimekosea. Yeah.
And people might be thinking maybe it's because they don't know how to pronounce certain words, but it's a disorder.
Yeah, it is a disorder. So that's how most people think. But I feel out here they've started creating awareness on dyslexia, so people are being aware of it. Kwanza kwa CBC I've seen they've really introduced it, of which it's playing a big role and
it's
helping.
there.
Yeah, it's there. The sounds, a book. So those ones really help. Yeah.
And have you tried to make amends with your friends because they didn't know?
Tulipoteleana, it was way back in campus. So hata sikumbuki, and I lost my phone, nikapoteza contact zote, so tulipoteleana. But the ones I'm making right now, I ensure to inform them. By the way, mimi niko na reading disorder, so ukipata nimesoma kitu usicheke. And most of the time, that's what, if they give me something to read, I give them a disclaimer.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Also, you are a psychologist. Why did you decide to also pursue, the career of psychology?
At some point in 2020 when during COVID-19
Yeah.
kulikuwa na hizi stories za deaf moms to commit suicide, because at some point unaona we were confined in our houses. Hakuna mtu anatoka kwenda kutafuta. Now you see it was like another mental awareness was to be created that time. So hakuna mtu mwenye mna interact na nyinyi, mko tu kwa nyumba hapo na hapo na hapo. So when after now 2020 in 2021 venye walifungwa now the country, like these men who felt like ni kama it was a burden at that period of time, wacha niseme tu hivyo, but I'm not sure, but most of them they walked out, hata not to the deaf, pia tu generally uliona watu wengi they really walked out of their marriages. So now kuna wenye wao wenye wamebaki, the wives and the kids, ungepata wengi they are committing suicide or they are trying to commit suicide. So I was like kama wengine wanaweza sema wako na shida, wako depressed, it's hard for them to say, because they will feel mbona, why am I feeling this way and I'm deaf? And it's very hard for them to open up. So that's when I said, because I'm a sign language interpreter, I'll be in a better position to understand them. And when they come for counseling sessions or therapy, I'll be able to be in their shoes, because I'm already in their world, so it's very much easier in their community. So it will be very much easier for me to offer my services as a psychologist. Yeah. And also another time I went to a hospital in Nairobi. Then they were like, this is very private. So they were like, we want to give advice to persons living with HIV who are deaf. But now the problem is, because they feel if they come with an interpreter, that's infringing their privacy. So most of them unapata they are not going to the hospital to get ARVs because of and wataki they are the third person kuingilia, because I don't trust an interpreter. Si atatoka hapa enda ambia wengine. So it becomes hard. So they are like, we are looking for someone mwenye sign language interpreter na bado amesoma psychology. I was like, siendi hapo juu ya pesa, but let me go help. So that's why nilichukua psychology to even just help.
Solution maker.
Yeah, solution, because they will be very much free to come talk to me, because I understand their language, so there will be no language barrier and there is no privacy being infringed, and also I'll be able to help. Yeah.
All right, maybe now before we switch to your other story, we need to create awareness on dyslexia. You have talked about dyslexia being a learning disorder. So if you come across someone who maybe is not able to pronounce some words, don't associate that with not knowing how to pronounce. It could be a learning disorder. So if you didn't know, dyslexia is there. Sawa sawa. Haya, when we were interacting with you pale kwa pre-interview, you talked to us a bit about your relationship. Maybe could you share to us kidogo a bit about relationship in Nairobi? Is it really tough in Nairobi?
Very tough. Very tough. I really don't know why, but it's very tough. But before even I give my story, I just want to advise parents who are out here. Yes, I know I'm not a parent, but just a piece of advice. Let's tell the truth to our kids. The girl child and the boy child, tuambie ukweli, so that when we start this relationship, we know, we expect, these are the things we expect in a relationship. So for me, I can say I had an advantage, because niko na damu ya Uganda kidogo.
Uganda.
And and my
Uganda,
auntie,
by the way, they have a good CV.
They have a good CV. Siezi danganya, they have a good CV. So when a girl child grows up in Uganda, most of them are being taught about sex education. So it becomes easy for you to handle a relationship and also to make some decisions in a relationship. So when I was in class 6, I think she introduced the topic chini ya maji, ndio mamangu asijue or any of my parents kujua. So she introduced the topic. So mimi nikiwa mkubwa, nikiwa form 1, form 2, nikiwa high school, I knew about sex.
You already knew?
I knew about it because she gave me those lessons and everything. But she was like consistently telling me, mvulana akikuja kuambia hivi, this is how you answer. ukijikuta kwa hii situation, this is what you do. So I had the knowledge of sex education when I was in high school. So I used to call my friends hapo kando kando, I teach them. So yeah, I became a teacher. I became a sex educationist when I was an educator when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So after nimemaliza, I didn't have a relationship by then because of what she had already taken me through. So it was very much easier for me to handle your situation yote ya high school.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any boyfriend at that time. So nikikuja KU, that's when I got my first boyfriend. Things didn't really work the way I thought they could work, but I thank God because hiyo education yenye my aunt alikuwa amenipea, it really went a long way to help me solve the first relationship, na tukaachana hivyo kwa with peace, and we still talk up to now. My second relationship, yeah, I talk to him up to now, but he's married. Then my second ex, everything, yeah. Your education, the basic education that my aunt gave me, na namshukurungu sana, even if my mom never knew, but it really helped me. So when I go into a relationship, I really know what to expect and what not to expect. My second relationship, it wasn't that good, na haikuisha vizuri, and all in all ni Nairobi.
Character development kidogo hapa na pale.
But since ya kwanza, the first one ndio inakuwa ngumu, the second one wasn't hard to handle. Hiyo kaisha hivyo. The third one, I got someone alikuwa na watoi, and I was like, this is it. This is it.
Alikuwa na watoi?
Yeah, and
how many children?
2. Na auntie yangu bado pia alikuwa amenifunza, if you meet someone who has kids, this is how you treat him and this is how you treat his kids. So I was ready. This is something nimefunzwa, so I can easily express myself and everything.
So your aunt also knew someone that kid can approach you?
Yeah, she knew. If they start giving you these classes, they teach you everything. There's nothing that they hide. So when I met this guy, I was like, hapa nimefika, and hapa ndio mwisho wa gari. Yes. So at first when I met him, nilikuwa najua kuna mtoto moja, so tukadate. After a year in a relationship, mtoto mwingine akakuja. So I was like, I know at some point inaweza kuwa heavy on my side, but nita manage. And the good thing ni they knew me as their mom. So it was...
Mtoto mwingine, ngoja wait a bit, How did he introduce you to the second kid? Jo, ulikuwa unajua mmoja? Huyu
wa pili nilikuwa nishaambiwa. A friend of mine told me, by the way, you know, this and this person akona watoto wawili, and I was like, no, mimi najua akona mtoto mmoja. So when I went to him and I was like, by the way, nimesikia uko na watoto wawili, ama it's just rumors zako zile nilikuwa tu nimeshindwa kukuambia, but ni wawili. Huyu mwingine ni mkubwa, but ni boy. I was like, mimi nime grow up kwa madem, sija take care of any baby boy kabisa juu hata wenye wanakujanga home mostly ni girls. So I know how to take care of girls more than boys. So it was like itakuwa ngumu kidogo on my side, but the reception ya huyo mtoi ilikuwa poa because he really loved me as the mom. So a boy. And also the girl, they used to call me mom and everything. So we stayed with this guy. Challenges zote za campus, juu nilikuwa namalizia campus. But it reached a point, unaona ile yenye nilisema nimepata huyu, he's not going to cheat.
He's the one.
Kumbe tu alikuwa tu ananipea time tu. Ni time tu nikaekae tu hapo nijione tu mjinga. But at the end he ended up doing the same thing. So the first time I was like, so my aunt was like, unajua mwanaume akiwa kwako ni wako, akishatoka si wako tena. But I wasn't staying with him because me I was in another university, he was in another university, so we weren't staying together. So my aunt had already prepared me, akaniambia men will cheat, but not all men cheat. So alikuwa ameshani prepare, men will cheat. So at some point, so akicheat mara ya kwanza mimi nikakumbuka tu words za auntie yangu, and I was like, it's now coming to reality. So I should learn how to handle it. So I handled it the first time. The second time it happened again, I handled it. The third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, I was like, no, this is not going to cheat. 5 times. And I was like, no, this is not going to end. And every time angekuja asema, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, there's sometimes I want to do the right, but najikuta nafanya the wrong. So every time angefanya hivyo, ananileta hiyo Bible, hiyo scripture ya Bible. I can't really remember, but that was what he used to open kila time ananileta Biblia. Yeah, so I was like, this time hapana. So, na nilikuwa very much sure he could convince me again the 5th time. So I was like, so mimi nikakuja tu hapo nikapanga tu na one of my friends who is a guy, and I was like, start texting me every day. Pretend that we are dating. So akakuja akapata hizo chats na calls and everything. So he was so furious, nini, I'm not ready to forgive this, you can't cheat on me, nini. But akakaka kidogo akasema, juadi mimi nimecheat, so hiyo ni draw. Nikaona hapa this will not end. So I was like,
your intention was
to end the relationship, because mi sitakangi ku end a relationship penye inakuwa chaotic. I love it to be simple. So I knew tikienda kuongelesha best yangu acheze kama yeye, itaisha, ata walk out, because men hawapendi kuwa cheated on, but
true.
So hakuenda hivyo. So it reached a time I had to move from where I was staying to another place, because alikuwa amezoea place. So I moved to another place, akanifuata bado, but it reached a time I was like, by the way, no, I think mimi personally I've already healed. Nimekuwa kwa hii relationship, I've been hurt na nimekuwa healed, so it's high time we just part ways.
So you stayed there to heal?
I stayed there to heal. The first time I cheat, I was okay, but the second time I knew the third time is coming. So I prepared myself to heal, because mimi na believe hakuna haja uende kwa relationship ingine when you still bleeding. So mimi kwa any relationship that I've ever been or I've ever been in it,
go in when you are healed.
I finished that relationship kama nimeheal. And najua if I tell him it's high time we separate ways, kwake kama itamuuma ni sawa. Mimi kwangu it won't hurt, I won't feel any pain, because I've already healed. So nilikaa hapo, akicheat the second time, nisha heal. The third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, now it was like, it's now the right time for me to walk out, because I've gotten used to. So even if you're not in my life, it's that way. So tukakuja hivyo venye alikataa, nikakuja the next year, that was in 2021. Hapo ikatokea hivyo kidogo, tukakaa kidogo, but I was like, ikifika mwezi wa 3, I was like, we can't continue with this, because I'm not just comfortable with what we have. So kindly let's just part ways. So he didn't believe me at first, alifikiria na joke, but nikamsindikiza, alikuwa amekuja kwangu, nikamsindikiza akaenda, nikamtumia text, nikamwambia umeona wewe umeniambia bye, that's the last bye you'll ever say to me. So that's how I entered I finished the relationship, and from there I've taken time, because first nilianza job pia, I went back to school, so all the energy nimechannel to education and work. So maybe after school then I can now start a relationship. Because hapo nitakuwa pia settled, and I will know what I really want, apart from what my auntie told me, because for them they only teach about being a submissive wife. So now, but ukitoka huku nje, it's not all about being submissive alone. You also have to be what you as a woman, what are you bringing on the table. So I'm sure after my school, then I will really know, me as a woman, what am I bringing on the table.
You were cheated on 5 times. 5 good times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Ya kwanza ili hurt. Hizi za nne zengine, they never did, because I was healing. And I was learning how to grow a thick skin to walk out of that relationship.
When you were cheated on at first, how kuenda, because you still loved him, ama what was why did you stay?
The words of my aunt, men will always cheat. So akicheat akuja aombe msamaha, kuambia he was wrong, he will never do that again, forgive him. Of which I feel that you shouldn't do that, because they see the weakness in you, and they will always do it and do it and do it and do it, because anajua tu utamsamea. So for me, nasema ninge walk out the first time I'll cheat, ingekuwa very painful on my side, because I had really invested a lot, na pia na watoto venye walikuwa amenipenda, ninge feel pain. So nilibaki hapo kuheal.
A gentleman has 2 kids. A gentleman has cheated on you 5 times. Na bado you endured it all. Ni mapenzi?
Yeah, the first time it was mapenzi. The second time nikiheal, it was about the kids. Hata when I decided to end the relationship, it didn't pain me anaenda, but the kids. Nilikuwa because you trusting a lady. Alafu unajua they used to call me mom. So trusting a lady to take care of 2 kids from 2 different baby mamas, it's very hard. So that was what was giving me stress at that period of time. But after 4 months I moved on. See, I will get my own huko mbele. So after like 4 months I moved on past the kids thing and everything. So life continued.
So in short, for you, there is no problem with a man dating a man who has kids.
There's no problem. The same way I can have a kid right now and a man comes to date me, I don't see any problem. It's just like we learn how to take care of this child mwenye either the lady amekuja naye ama the man amekuja naye. It's just the love that you give to your kids, the same love that you'll give to this other child, because it may happen si ati they will take that child wamrudishe penye alitoka, no. So alafu another thing is huu mtoto si wa makosa. If kama kuna mtu wa makosa hapa, ni the parents who gave birth to the kid. So you can't transfer your hatred to this innocent child. Useme mbona this guy has a child, so I'm not going to love the child. If you love the guy, you must also love the child. If a guy loves a lady who has a child, they must also love the child equally as they love the lady. Yeah.
With the way you are sharing your story, it seems you really, yani ni kama ulikuwa umepata. For me,
I really love kids a lot. I love kids. Na nikigrow up nimekuanga teacher wa Sunday school, and unfortunately hizi young teenage pregnancy zimeniharibia. I think wasichana wangu wote, most of them have 2 kids or 1 kid, so unapata, so I just have that passion of kids. So that's why mimi, if I get a man with a kid, I have no problem with that. Yeah.
And for you, maybe it's not up someone who has a kid or has kids. How do you handle a situation of the pressure where you are getting pressure from maybe parents?
Which parents? My parents or the...
For example, me, I date someone who has a kid, and perception ya wazazi wangu wananiambia hapana, but me, I've already loved. How do I handle that pressure?
And just I was talking to a friend of mine today in the morning. I was like, it's high time parents also sit down and listen to what we want. Yes, they want the best for us, but we also have our own opinions. Wewe umependa huyu msichana na mtoto, they don't understand why you love this girl. So they also have to call you, sit you down and ask you, mbona umependa huyu msichana? They also listen to you so that they give you that opportunity to go ahead and marry the lady. Because watakwambia don't marry this one, na mwenye watataka uoe upate, the relationship is not working, ama the marriage is not working. So I feel like if I will be a parent, for me I feel I'll always listen to the opinions of my kids, because that's the very important thing of which I feel our parents walikuwa na hiyo notion ya they want us to be perfect, but remember there's no one who is perfect. So I just a request to parents, wakae chini na watoi wao so that they know what their kids want, even as young as 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, wajue ndio sasa huyu mtoto akue open, ndio hata akipata relationship anakuwa ready kuambia this guy, by the way umecheat on me and I'm ready to go. Si ati umecheat on me but I will forgive you. So let the opinion of your kids matter in your conversation. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
So it's all about sitting down together and reasoning out.
Yeah, just reasoning out, because wewe unaweza kuwa unataka wewe unaweza kuwa umependa huyu msichana because of 1 2 3. But your parents hawajui the reasons why umependa huyu msichana na huyu mtoto. So you have to explain to them, by the way mimi nimependa huyu msichana because of 1 2 3 and I feel she's the perfect match for me. Alafu upate life iko mzuri kwa hiyo relationship or marriage. So it's sitting down and having a good conversation and discussion about the matter. Yeah.
Wow. You seem so strong, a strong woman.
A psychologist.
a strong one. Yeah. Do you think Kenya should apply Ugandan way of maybe sex education?
For sex education, I'll say yes. But for the side of being a submissive wife, at some point, pia 50% of it, but the 50% hapana. Because it makes you be unakuwa humble. A man will do anything, you will not react. Utakuwa zile za ni mwanaume amefanya 1 2 3. So I feel 50% of we should be submissive. The Bible says we should be submissive, we as wives. But kuna hiyo submissive wengine yenye a man does something, unapata domestic violence ime happen kwa nini, but it becomes too much, but you cannot leave that marriage because wamesha kufunza the other side of the story. So unaendelea kuwa patient ama unaendelea kuvumilia hapo ukisema things will change, and things will never change. So I feel tunaweza apply hiyo kwa sex education. We teach our kids what they should expect in life, in a relationship, and what they should not expect, and also being a wife, how you should behave and everything. But the other side ya kufunza mtu kuwa submissive to an extent that they wanavumilia gender based violence hapana. So hiyo side nayo hapana.
Alright.
Yeah.
Maybe now your final words as we finish. Umenipea experience ingine 5 times.
5 times.
Your final remarks now as we finish.
My final remarks will be, first, let's embrace dyslexia. It's here with us, and we can do something to correct it, to like make someone feel better, because we can do sounds and we can do reading out loud. So let's embrace it, and if you have someone mwenye akona zile signs unaona hizi zinaweza kuwa, wacha watafute specialist wajue kama ni disorder ama tu ni another thing. So let's not be fast to judge someone, huyu ajui kusoma, huyu ni mjinga or something, but huyu mtu maybe tu ni ile tu problem ya sounds. Then another thing is ladies, akicheat, toka, because they will never change.
But women also cheat.
Yeah, we cheat, but hamtaitupata.
Hivyo ndio mnasema.
Yeah, hamtaitupata. We love, tunaweza multitask, but you can't. So nyinyi mkipenda roho yote imeenda huko, but mimi naweza kuwa nimekupenda hapa Habil, then next time if you see me with somebody else hata huwezi jua nimempenda, so it's hard, but it's rare. If a lady cheats, kuna kitu umefanya, ama pia umecheat na pia anataka kuprovoke. It's rare for a lady to cheat. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jedida Wafula.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing that powerful story of yours.
And also thank you for inviting me on your show.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow, that has been Jedida Wafula, who is a psychologist and as well as a sign language interpreter. I'm sure you have learned a lot from that. I don't want to mix much from what he has shared. I'm sure you have learned about dyslexia and how to handle relationship. She has been cheated on 5 times. The 5th time before she left. What do you learn from that? Dyslexia is here with us. You have someone who has a problem with pronunciation. Do you think it's a learning disorder or it's another issue? How do you handle that? That's all that matters. Thank you so much for staying up to this juncture. We have come to the end of the show. Stay glued, subscribe, hit that subscription button to make sure that you get notified on whatever story we post. Thank you so much. See you next time.